to varying degrees, but my experience has been so positive with all of them. I'm just excited to hear the ideas that they can share with us. Today, we're going to be talking about empowering school counselors to increase their impact on students and teachers. And in conjunction with that, let me just give a kind of a brief history of these webinars and what they've turned into and how you as attendees can kind of play a role in them. So we started doing these beginning of the pandemic when everything was shut down and we lost our ability to connect. So I represent the WhyTry organization. We've been around for about 20 years. We specialize in resilience and social emotional learning, social emotional skills. And we've developed over 20 years just a community and a network that we're really proud of. And when that got kind of cut off in the pandemic, we needed to figure out a way to stay connected. We started doing these webinars, and pretty quickly they took on a life of their own, where people started showing up with regularity, and we saw our network really start to expand, and people started meeting other people and making connections. And it's turned into this really fun thing where, to me, it feels like a way every week we do these, it kind of boosts my spirit, charges my batteries, but it's also a great way for ideas to be exchanged. The chat tool has kind of become an interesting place where people can share additional ideas. It's like the conversation within the conversation that's going on. So please utilize the chat. My request to everybody, if you're willing, is take a look at your chat settings, and you'll notice right above where you type, you'll see there's a little drop down arrow and it says to. And if that doesn't say to everyone, if it only says to hosts and panelists, then when you share your comment, the panelists and myself are the only ones that can see it. So if you're willing to share your comments with everybody, adjust that over so that it says you're sharing comments with everyone, and that'll make sure that that everybody can see your comments, because there is some, I think, real value in being part of this community, and it's fun seeing other people that are here with a similar passion and interest in these topics. So anyway, the plan is today we're going to go for about an hour. And we'll see how it goes with the conversation. So with that, I think I will go ahead and introduce our panelists, and then we'll get into the actual discussion. So again, welcome all our attendees, and now let's introduce panelists. First, we've got Denise Cipolla. Denise is passionate about working with young people to help them realize their potential and encourages them to reach for their dreams while freeing themselves from being victims of their past. She's a strong advocate of reality therapy and teaching the importance of effective communication skills, patience, and acceptance of individual differences. She's dedicated to teaching resiliency, grit, and using failures as fuel for future success. Denise, you are in Conroe. You can address that if you'd like. You are in Conroe ISD, yes, in Texas. Denise, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks so much. And I was trying to think back. You said WhyTry has been 20 years. I might have been one of the original trainees. I think probably we've been involved with WhyTry that long here in Conroe.
I think that might be right. And and that's just incredible. You've been such a great friend to our organization for such a long time. And it may be. Yeah. So yeah. what a run. Oh my goodness. Next, we have Roger Gerganis, principal at Patrick Henry Middle School, 8 and 9 building in Woodhaven, Michigan, has a passion for children and education and strives to ensure, oh my goodness, make sure my notes are in the right order, strives to ensure that every student is connected and feels part of the positive communities he creates, along with creating a culture of hope and love in his own middle school. Roger also is committed to bringing hope, love, and education to the children of Uganda, Africa, where each summer he travels in hope of making a bigger difference in the lives of students who need it the most. Roger believes that teaching is not a job, but rather a calling, and hopes that through his work, lives can be changed, dreams can become reality, and mountains can be moved. By the way, he was also named the Administrator of the Year 2021 and 22 by the Michigan School Counselors Association. Welcome, Roger. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure to be here. Thank you so much. I'm excited.
And then last but not least, we have Betsy Kanagawa. Betsy is a school counselor at Patrick Henry Middle School as well in Woodhaven, Michigan. She's also a licensed professional counselor, provides supervision for LLCs. Betsy is passionate about writing and teaching and classroom lessons and providing small group support to her students. In 2019, Patrick Henry Middle School earned the recognized Ask a Model Program Award. Betsy currently serves the Michigan School Counseling Association as the middle school level VP and Michigan Comprehensive School Counseling Program and RAMP chair for the Michigan School Counselors Association, and is the 2021 Michigan School Counselor of the Year. No big deal.
Wow. Thanks. That was nice. Now I feel like I have a lot to live up to.
Well, I told you I'm excited because all of you, your reputations precede you. Not just with our organization, we think the world of you, but you've done some incredible things that has, I think all the recognitions have been well deserved. So I guess I should introduce myself last but not least. My name is Jason Johnson. I am the Director of Training and Research for the WhyTry organization. My background is I'm a school psychologist, come from the world of public ed, came over to WhyTry about 6.5 years ago. And it's just been an awesome ride here to be able to collaborate at a national level around a topic that I care deeply about. My kind of area of expertise has been resilience. I was published on the topic of resilience on some research that I did. And that is kind of what I guess put me got the attention of the WhyTry organization. And here we are now. It's a wild ride that I never could have written for myself on my own, but here we are, and I get to be the lucky one to participate in these discussions. So with that, I want to get right into it. I want to start off, maybe just briefly tell us a little bit about what you've been up to over the last year or so, specifically maybe what your primary areas of focus have been. I know it's been really an unusual year that has been hard, like I think a lot harder than some of us anticipated before the year started. It's taken a toll, and I'm just wondering what you've been focusing on, what you've been up to. Let's go Denise, then Roger, and then Betsy.
Whoa. So just a thing or two, in the last year. Really, a lot of focus has been bridging the achievement gap. We were a little different. We're down here in Texas. And so even during the pandemic, we opened that first year with 63% face-to-face. We ended the year with 92% face-to-face. So we didn't have that closure like a lot of the nation did, but we still saw significant delays in achievement. And of course, when you're a fourth grade teacher and you're used to fourth grade behavior, and they come back and they've been out of school for a couple of years, you're getting second grade behavior. So that threw everybody, not only the achievement gap, but that behavior piece has been a focus for us. 10th graders acting like 8th graders and all of that. So in addition to that, we've been providing an awful lot of trainings for our parents as well as our staff. And this education, all of these resources, things on trauma-informed teaching, self-care, stress and anxiety, of course, and coping strategies for parents. It was hard being home, and it's hard in today's world. And a lot of our families didn't want to get involved with technology, but then they are involved in technology now. And so how do you put that back in the barn, right? So then we're expanding our platforms for delivery of our services this year. I think that's what we really learned, was that people will attend. Our attendance is better if it's virtual or if it's recorded. And we're doing a lot with posting things on our campus websites and our department websites, just like today's training, which is being recorded. People can view it when they can. So by far, our parent nights went from maybe 5, 10, 15 parents to a couple hundred, now that we've been able to deliver those in a different platform. And then in Conroe, last thing is social emotional learning. And we have really focused on making it something that is our own playbook, spending a lot of time and energy, not buying a set program, but looking at our community, the needs of our community, and being responsive to that. So we're very anxious next year to get that rolled out and have more of support with every classroom, not just the counselor's responsibility to help teach social emotional learning.
That's awesome. Thank you, Denise. And I'm going to ask you to forgive me. My write-up was cut off. I didn't give you a proper introduction. I didn't even tell people what you've been doing. Do you want to tell people what your most recent title has been?
Well, I'm the coordinator for guidance and counseling in Conroe ISD. We're a very large district of 68,000 students. We have 65 campuses, and this is my 7th year in this position, my 25th year in Conroe ISD.
Awesome. Thank you for helping me with that. Denise is an absolute legend, and I mean that in sincerity. It's again, think the world of it. Roger, tell us what you've been up to.
Yeah, I think over the past 2 years, or even this year, my focus has really been just on showing value to my staff and my students and letting them know that school doesn't have to be the way it's always been. When I was in education, when I was in school, to be honest, I was a horrible student. I didn't pass classes. I was disrupting the class. I didn't want to go to class because I didn't see the value behind it. And I think it's because we have these students who need this hope of like, it doesn't have to be the way someone else has always done it for you. You're an individual. You learn different. You're not the same. So this year with our staff, the big push I was telling everyone is like, I think the positive that came out of COVID, or the silver lining, is that it showed us we don't have to do things the same way. Mm-hmm. So with that mindset of the future starts now, like we can change everything, the way we assess students, the way we deliver content, the way we communicate, the way that a classroom even looks physically can be totally different. So my big push this year is to teach our staff that the curriculum is not the most important thing. The most important thing is not what we teach, but who we teach. And at the end of the day, with social emotional health and just any type of situation with any student, you have to know our students. So I want to build a relationship with my staff, which they would want to build a relationship with their students, that the students feel loved, valued, understood, and they want to come to class. Not because they would just love history, it's because they love the person who's giving out the history to them. And I think that's just my biggest push. It's an uphill battle every single day because people are burned out. How do you go out there? And like the other day, I wasn't feeling too well, and a teacher asked me, "Hey, what's going on with you? You look a little down." And like I took that on the chin because I never want to look that way, because I don't want anyone else to feel like it's okay to that I can't do the positiveness that I want them to do. And it's a hard thing to do. The old saying is when the principal sneezes, the school catches the cold, right? So for me, I feel like I always have to be positive, because if I'm positive, it breeds positivity. So I think what my role is over this past, even the 6 months, is to continue to bring it every single day and show them that there is hope, there is love, and that we can make it through no matter what.
That's awesome. Thank you, Roger. Roger, the last part while you're talking, there may be a slight issue with your mic. You may just maybe double check that while Betsy's going. Betsy, tell us what you've been up to.
All right, so this year I can definitely relate to what Denise said. I was shaking my head a lot because I feel like our biggest thing was first of all, identifying what are our student needs, because none of us have done this before, and everybody coming back into in-person education this year, it was one, just identifying what do they need and getting them re-engaged and reconnected to school. And Roger's my boss. I don't know if people made that connection. He's my principal, and he's really passionate about those student relationships. So finding ways that we can connect them with an adult at the school, into a club, an activity, or something that just gets them excited to be at school, and then figuring out what are they lacking, and is it an academic thing? But mostly what we've seen is the same thing, that relational aggression, the social skills, the immaturity of them coming back, where it seems like they're kind of stunted in where they were before they left. And even our students who were in person all year last year, still feeling like their ability to connect with others at that maturity level that they should, seems like it's a little delayed. So we're doing a lot more classroom lessons around conflict and conflict styles and that sort of thing, doing a lot of small groups, and then just trying to find ways to use all that ESSER money to add more support for our students, because we know there are so many needs right now that just a couple school counselors to so many students we can't do everything we want to be able to do. So that's been kind of one of our things, is pushing to add more school counselors and more support staff to our schools so that we can best serve all of our students. And then equity, you know, who are the students who are left behind in all of this, and how can we better serve them and make sure that they have an equitable opportunities towards education, has been a really important thing in our building.
I love it. Well, this is perfect. What a perfect setup. I want to start by discussing maybe a little bit about school climate and culture. You know, I think we're going to get into some of the other pieces, kind of the specifics around this, but I think in a lot of cases right now, as we're trying to figure out the solution to a lot of these challenges that you've all described, a lot of it is impacting school climate and culture, and it kind of becomes this circle, like kind of a chicken or egg situation. One is impacting the other, and then as the other starts to struggle, it impacts the other thing. I don't know where it starts, but I know that it has an impact on it. I'm curious if you could share some of your thoughts about the impact that student connection has on climate and culture, and you know, maybe how you view that within your responsibility and kind of the goals you have there organizationally. Let's change up the order. Let's go Betsy, Denise, Roger.
Yeah, I think especially as a school counselor, that's something that's very huge that we have a big impact on, is on the school culture and climate. And I think one of the biggest things we try to do is get student voice, you know, giving surveys and trying to get information from them to find out where are we lacking. Because we might think we're doing a great job, but if the students don't feel like that, if they're not feeling heard or seen, then we're not doing it right, or we're not doing it in the right way. And so we have a student advisory that we meet with, who helps us plan different activities. We have a social justice team where we do surveys, and we take that information back to find out which voices are not being heard. I think students want to be heard. They have so much information to share with us about their needs, but do we always give them the opportunity to share that with us? And then do we make changes based off of what they've said? You know, and so I feel like, one, asking them for that information, but then showing them that we've intentionally made changes based off of that, you know, trying to get students involved in all of our staff teams, like PBIS or school improvement. You know, all of those things could be student led or student driven, to best impact them in a way that they would hear and feel seen. We know that the biggest correlation between a student's success is relationships, you know, having a positive, caring adult in their life. And if they don't have that at home, they need that at school. And even if they have that at home, it makes such a big impact when they have that at school. And so I think that's been one of the biggest things we've come out of this with. How do we get them reconnected with somebody? Is it a teacher mentor? We do something called minute meetings that we use to try to identify students who are lacking that engagement and that connection, and try to use that to get them connected with somebody. We started a homeroom, which we hadn't previously had, and use that as intentional connection time with activities planned that would help teachers forge, you know, these strong relationships with students. So we know that that is the biggest thing that will keep kids coming back to school. If they have somebody who sees them, who knows their name, and who's excited to see them as well, that can instill some hope in them that maybe they're not feeling that day.
I love that. I'm always sit and write notes when the panelists are talking, because it just makes my mind spin. But I think I prefer the word reconnection to re-engagement. I know re-engagement is an important term, but I like that view because I think it really hits the heart of it. Is it has to be a process of reconnection. If the connection piece is missing in the re-engagement, then the engagement isn't going to happen. All right, awesome. You made me think about something. Thank you. Let's go. I think next I had loaded up. Let's go Denise and then Roger.
We know that disconnect that Betsy was talking about, that really creates isolation and also leads to depression, right? Those kind of go hand in hand, and that creates a really heavy load for kids. So I think that student connection is essential, because all of our basic, probably our strongest human need is the one of belonging. And Betsy was talking about that, and we may be the one place where the kids are feeling like they belong. Think about those teachers that don't have a problem with a certain student, and then one teacher may have a horrible problem, or vice versa. And it's that connection. It's the respect for the individual, so much more that gears that behavior. But with a connection, with Student Connection, we're able to create a safe and collaborative space. And that's where students, it promotes learning, it promotes expanding, and it provides that safe place to be creative. So it's just essential. I mean, and everything that Betsy said, it's paramount. You're not going to learn without it, basically.
Thank you, Roger.
Now,
I think so. Talk a little bit more.
check.
Yep,
Are you
you're
there?
good.
All right.
Good.
Yeah, it's the number one thing. I mean, we go to people that we connect with as adults. So let's just keep it simple and do it the same thing in schools. I think we make things so complicated when all we have to do is connect. And that's probably the easiest thing to do. There's always something you have in common with somebody else. At the building I was at before coming here, we had tons of students who are failing, low scores on our standardized assessments, behaviors that are off the wall. And the only thing that we changed in a 6-year period was we started connecting with students. We went from no clubs to 20 plus clubs. We went from a few teachers engaging with students to almost 80% of our staff running clubs out of their own time, not getting paid for it because they saw the value. And as the years went on, our scores kept going up. And it wasn't because we got new books, because we didn't. It wasn't because we got new teachers, because we didn't. It was we changed our mindset. Connections. Connect with a student. If they know you care about them, they're going to listen to you. Bottom line.
So good. And you're speaking my language. My humble brag here. The research I ended up getting published specifically was on student involvement in clubs and extracurricular activities and the direct correlation it has on student resilience. It makes such a massive difference. I want to shift the discussion now a little bit to the role that school counselors or school counseling can play in that. It's interesting. I feel so fortunate to do what I do because I get to see up close and work closely with different districts throughout the country, coast to coast. And I've seen all different ways of doing things. And I'm always intrigued. Everybody utilizes their counselors and their psychs and their social workers a little bit different. There's some general overlap, but I feel like you three have, you have, I think, a real good model for utilizing counselors as part of that connection hub. And I was just wondering if you could share a few thoughts on that, specifically what role do counselors play in that connection and the climate and the culture, but also in your opinion, like, how do you think we should be utilizing counselors, or how can we make best use of our counselors? Let's go. Let's stick with Roger. Let's go Roger, then Betsy, then Denise. All
right. Let me grab my soapbox real fast. Because this is I'm very passionate about it. I'm not just saying that because Betsy's on here. I really believe, from the time that I've been in administration, that the counselors, they're the main thing. They are, when you look at students who cannot connect with teachers, or you have teachers who cannot connect with students, most likely they go and talk to the counselor first. They don't go to the principal's office. They don't go to the assistant principal's office. They go to the counselor because they know that person is the heart of the school. They are the bridge makers. And I feel like that is the biggest role we can do. We look at school counselors. I go back to when I was in school, when I saw the counselor a lot because I was failing everything. I think the big difference is my counselor was so set on, getting your credits, doing this. They never talked to me about my personal self. Why was I not successful? Why was I failing classes? And I think the biggest thing is we have to let our counselors talk to students, give them time to connect. We want to connect with students, right? That's the main thing. We just talked about, all of us agree on that. But how can a principal ask their counselor to make connections with all students when they have them doing busy work for 50% of their day? I mean, bottom line, I don't know what else to say about that. If we cannot give our counselors time to connect with students, then what the heck are we doing?
Yeah. Amen. Betsy.
Well, I'm very fortunate because, as you can see, I have an administrator who makes sure that, I have time to do those things. He also made me this shirt I wanted to show. So school counselors are the mitochondria of the school, and it's a direct quote from one Roger Gerganis. Thank you for the t-shirt. But, he said, we're the powerhouse of the school. I feel like school counselors' jobs are to see the whole picture. you know, you've got every teacher who's got a certain skill set, but school counselors see the whole picture. They see the future of students. They see the mental health needs. They see the social emotional learning needs. They see the goals that students have, the ways that they're lacking, and then they see the teachers' needs and the parents' needs and the community needs. And so you have this whole picture that you're seeing. And then, you know, our job is to look at the data and to let that drive. What do students need to get to their next step, to their next transition point, to get to the future that they dream of and that they deserve to have? And then we provide the classroom content for that. Tier 1 interventions. We might have small groups of students who are still struggling. We might work with teachers who, you know, are struggling with a particular student. We might work with the families to provide family support. We might connect them to an agency in the community. I just sent a list of summer program opportunities for parents to check out for their kids. So I feel like it's just seeing that whole child and figuring out, how can I make sure that their next step is a smooth surface in front of them, and when it's not, how can I help them stand back up, pick them back up, and get them onto the next step, you know? And how can I help instill hope for them that maybe they're not seeing it right now, and help them through this? So that just is the whole culture and climate of school. Is where do we see our students going? Do we believe that all students can learn, and we can make sure that it's accessible to all students, and that they deserve to have this future? We need them for the future, you know? And do we even know what the future needs so that we can start preparing them for it now? So I just feel like it's a huge role that sometimes, you know, you have so many hats that those are the hats that get dropped, but that's the most important thing we can do, is to advocate on behalf of all of our students.
Well said, Betsy. And I think when I'm looking at it, I challenge, we have 173 counselors, and I challenge them because I say, you are the cheerleader on your campus. We model the behavior. How many times if something's wrong on campus, they look to the counselor, they look to the administrator to see how to react. And so much of what we do is promoting that, you know, and showing people how to care. It's natural for those of us that went into counseling. We're huggers. We like to be a part of and connected with one another. But for someone who's never known how to make those connections, we have to be able to help teach that and share that. You can't tell a child to be kind if they've never known kindness. You have to begin to show them what kindness looks like. And it's taught by kind acts. And so I think that when you're passing in the hallway, do you acknowledge who you're passing, or you just walk by in a rush to get to your next class? Do you know, say hello, notice someone? You know, how does it feel when we are acknowledged? It feels really good. So starting to make that a habit and something that everyone in the building does. You're talking to one another. You know, I just think that it's important that we make every contact we can. And will it make some people uncomfortable? Possibly. And I'm not saying linger, just acknowledge. You know, counselors are the social committee. They're also the smile and the hug of the building. You know, Roger said that. They're the love of the building. So that servant spirit comes very natural for us, and we're the givers. But that's one reason we have to invest in our counselors as well. And gosh, Betsy, what an amazing administrator. Because you can't give from an empty vessel. And that's something that we try to do, is continue to pour into the counselors so that they have the courage and the strength to keep being creative and being innovative and pouring back into the kids. It's directly related. You know, if you're a teacher and you're listening today, how would that feel? And don't you need that? You know, and you don't have to do it all by yourself, counselors. You know, we have one counselor, 1,100 students. That's hard to do. But there's other giving people on your campus too. Find out who they are and include them. Allow them to bless others and to fulfill their spirit. When we're all connected doing this, it prevents that victim mentality. And there's something that I think we did get during this whole shutdown and everything. There's the I can't has become all too common, and that victim mentality. And we've got to go back to the I can.
Thank you. So I want to get into the practical now, and Betsy kind of alluded to it a little bit. I think this will be the place where maybe you can expand a little bit. I want to hear, I want to know if you'd be willing to share some specific tips or strategies that you have for how we can improve our connection and our relationships. Let's go. And so like Betsy, I know you mentioned like the minute meetings. I think that's a really cool idea. People would love to hear more about. But yeah, if you have any specific things that you've been a part of, you've seen that you could share, I think a lot of the people here are really hungry for any ideas or tools that we can take away. Let's go Betsy, Denise, Roger.
Yeah, so as far as connecting with students, I know I mentioned the minute meetings. This is like a huge thing that's been coming up over the last few years. I first heard about minute meetings several years ago at a state conference, and I thought, why would I spend a minute with every kid? You know, and what it is it's you intentionally spending about a minute with every student on your caseload. And at that time, I was like, yeah, I don't know. And I knew I had student surveys where kids were saying one thing they wish the counselors would do is find a way to meet with every student. So I was like, I don't know, 1 minute, what can you really get out of it? But then I went to another conference where I heard a more intentional approach where you have specific questions set up that you're asking every student. And they could be in the areas of like social emotional learning or mental health questions or academic and kind of career focused questions. But then we put it in, we pick the questions, we put them on a Google form. So as we meet with every student, we ask the same questions and we document all of their answers. And this is a great way to, one, break the stigma of meeting with a counselor, because every single student is doing that, and they're doing it. We do it in the hallways where everyone can see. They're not very personal or highly confidential questions. And so it just makes that seem more acceptable for all students. Number two, it's a way for us to see every single student in the school in a very specific amount of time. You know, it's generally a little bit more than a minute at times, but sometimes if it's taking a little more than a minute or two, it's like, hey, why don't we continue this later? And then we get information that we can use as data to drive what we do. So for example, we try to do this about 3 times a year. And in the middle of the year, we'll ask something about, hey, who's a teacher you feel like you've really connected with? And then we can identify students who don't have anyone and get them connected. Or we can ask something about, hey, at the end of the year, what's something you'd like your new counselor next year at the high school to know? And then I can send that information over there so they have a starting point with each of those students. And so we are very passionate about those minute meetings, but it takes a lot of time. You know, I have 440 students on my caseload. So for me to meet with every student, I have to really want to spend the time doing that. And it has been so huge for just making kids who maybe wouldn't have signed up to see their counselor about something feel a little, well, I've kind of talked with her a couple of times, you know, maybe they just feel a little bit more comfortable, you know, setting up a time to meet with you after that if something comes up. So I love that for culture and climate, that we are here to spend our times directly with our students. That is something that is important to us. Another thing is, like I mentioned, the student advisory, where we meet with students to hear like what's going on. They help us with programs, or we hear their ideas of ways that we can build a more positive, supportive school culture. And then someone had asked a question about staff wellness. I don't know if I should answer that now or later, but
You're good if you want. We're going to definitely circle back around to it because it's a really important one.
Yeah, so I'll come back to that later. So those are just a couple of things that we're doing that I feel like has been really important for our school culture, and it's really changed our programming and been a great way for us just to get to know every kid. And then when parents are asking, I don't think my kid, like, no, we talk to your kid at least 3 times a year, if not, if you don't count like all our classroom lessons or small groups, you know, we still make contact with every student.
Thank you, Denise.
Yes, I was going to say, I think it was me. Be available, be visible. You have to walk the building to increase that. And that's either with the staff or with the students. Getting out there. If you're looking for that parent that you can't get to sign some form, be in car rider line and hand the forms to them. You know, taking advantage of all those, whenever you cross paths with someone, they'll, if you're out there in the building, then they will begin to share a little something with you. I always have a notepad with me so that I can keep up with what I need to follow up on. Also, do you have like a counselor care cart? You know, go by once a week and give out candy or popcorn or something like that. Just those connections with the staff. A Zen Room for wellness. I know Betsy started to get there, but we have more of our campuses who have a little area just where you can go in and kind of, you know, defrag for a little bit and begin to get yourself pulled back together. We allow the students to do that. Why aren't we allowing the staff and investing in them in that way too? After school yoga or those little mini trampolines. We've talked to several staff with those needs assessments that Betsy mentioned, who just wanted a 15 to 20 minute kind of get it back together before they leave school and start the next part of their lives. And so a little trampoline session of wellness, and then we send them off in a happy spirit. So just, beginning to put a note in a teacher's box. Or I really like the idea of writing a written note and mailing it to your teacher's significant other. It's really hard to be a teacher, and that whole family is having to give a lot to that classroom. And so I've seen administrators who will write a note and mail those home to the significant other and just thank them for their teacher service. All of those things I think can really help build that climate and culture we're talking about. Because again, if the teachers are feeling uplifted and full, then they're going to carry that over. It'll spill over onto the kids.
What a great idea. I love that. And that I'm going to put in an extra plug for the Zen Room. For those that have been on our previous webinars, it was my good friend, Ashley Wright, who is a counselor in Conroe in Denise's district. She's been on several of these before. She's really the one that opened my eyes up to like a virtual Zen Room. And it was just incredible. Just some really great practical ideas out there to help out. And hopefully some of you saw, Betsy shared a link of a presentation or of a Minute Meetings example that she had in the chat there. And we're going to put up panelist contact information at the end if any of you want to get in contact with any of our panelists. Roger, give us some strategies.
I mean, both of them hit it right on the head, like be intentional. One thing that I woke up in the morning and I said, I need to be more intentional. So I do a thing every day called the daily 10-5-1. And what that means is I do 10 intentional interactions with students, 5 intentional interactions with my staff, and 1 classroom visit, no matter what's going on that day. And I try to hold myself to that, because if not, I'm going to get busy. We're all going to get busy. We're going to find something to do if we're not intentional. There's always something form we can fill out. There's always a conversation we have to have about something. Board office wants to talk to me about something, but at the end of the day, if you can be intentional, that's when you can change things. The question about how our vessels are empty. They are. I'm not going to lie. My vessel's empty, right? My blood pressure is a little high right now. I'm not going to lie, because it is. We're empty. We're giving so much. Mm-hmm. And one thing as a school leader or just as a counselor, you have to give yourself to people, but also keep a little bit of yourself for yourself. Because there are times you can ask, like Betsy, I've come to her office because I feel like I'm done. Like, I've loved too many people today. To be honest, I couldn't even imagine. I'm not even a school counselor, in the stress of that people have that you take on your shoulders. I couldn't even imagine that. My heart breaks so much every single day, and I guarantee the heart of a counselor breaks 100 times more, because they are hearing these kids who don't want to live, who don't want to go home, who don't have a home. And every day they give and they give and they give. And as a school leader and just as a friend, you got to give back to them, check on them, give them a stupid t-shirt like I gave them, whatever those things are. Like, show them that they have value. Like, we luckily at our district, in our building, we have a group of teachers called the Warrior Wellness, because we're the warriors. Every month we do something for our staff. Silly stuff, fun stuff. Sometimes it's great stuff. But guess what? It's stuff. And you're not going to make everybody happy. We all know that, right? You're not a taco. You're not going to make everybody happy in this world. But you have to try. Because when you stop being intentional, you stop trying, that's what breaks up marriages. That's what breaks up friendships. And that's what breaks up your school. You have to keep trying, and you got to be intentional. Bottom line.
Thank you. Roger, do you mind sharing again the 10-5-1? Tell me what that was again.
So it is every day is called the daily 10-5-1. I want to be intentional and make connections with 10 students that I seek out, not just in the hallway where I say hi to somebody, how they're doing. Like somebody, I do that with 5 staff members, and I do it with 1 classroom. And that could just be in there engaging in a lesson, talking to the students, asking silly questions, trying to get engaged with the students. But does it happen every day? I'm not Jesus over here. Trust me. I'm not perfect. I can't get in there all the time, but I try. Some days, you know what it is? It's a 1-1-1. Some days it's a 1-0-0. But every day there's intentionality.
So remind me, what was the 5 and what was the 1?
So 10 is students, 5 is staff, 1 is class.
Got it. Okay. That's awesome. I'm gonna just
like
so you know,
I said,
I'm gonna borrow it. I'm gonna name it I'm going to
I'm not
name it the
batting
Roger
1,000 on
model.
that. Yeah, I'm not batting 1,000 on it. Trust me. I'm not going to sit up here and act like I am. But you
No,
have
it's
to
great
try.
though. I want to talk now for just a minute about how we can better utilize. I like the makeup of this panel because we have kind of a district level view, we have an administrator view, and then we have a counselor speaking directly on behalf of the counselors. What tips or suggestions could you share to help schools, or even just advice to help schools better support and utilize their counselors, or to help counselors better advocate for what they're trained to do? Because I think one of the things that continues to come up, and we do so much work with counselors, I hear this on a personal level when I'm training counselors regularly. There's like and I feel the same way as a psych. There's like the thing you're trained to do, there's the thing you want in your heart to do, and then there's the reality of what you have to do. And sometimes there's a disconnect between those. How can we get the best balance? What tips do you have for that? Let's go. Let us go. Denise, Roger, Betsy.
Well, if you don't share with people what you are doing, then they'll assume everything that you're not doing. So you have to be a self-advocate. You have to share your calendar. Does your principal or administrator even know what a counselor's responsibilities are supposed to be? There is a new law in Texas that says every 5 years, principals or administration has to be trained in the comprehensive guidance model. Texas Education Agency has a comprehensive guidance model. It's based on the ASCA model as well. So it has domains where we split up our time and like Roger said, how much time is given to where, because you still only have 24 hours in the day. But I think, part of that is some counselors view, and teachers possibly too, that some of that system support piece is not a counseling duty, like lunch duty, for example, but flip the switch on it. Go in and look at that as a time to look at who's eating with whom, have a counselor's corner, interact, create climate and culture with within the lunchroom, spend some time interacting with kids. You can change that. You can be there to help assist, but then you're also building those connections. So just thinking about how to take and flip that switch. I mean, basically change that has to be done for support of the school and make it an interactive and a cooperative spirit while you're doing it.
Awesome. Thank you. I think we have Roger next.
Yeah. And Denise, I agree with you 100%, trying to flip the script on what you are doing to make it more impactful. Like Betsy came in the lunchroom today. I was eating a crusty bean burrito with 2 special needs students because they were by themselves. And I just sat there and I talked with them about her wiggly tooth. But in reality, let's not sugarcoat things. Why are we having counselors do monitoring the cafeteria? You know what I mean? Like, shame on administration, shame on leaders who are doing that. I think in reality, and I speak to myself in the same way, principals, school administration needs to get over themselves. They are the highest paid person in the building. They should be doing more. That's the way I look at things. If I'm getting paid the most in my building, I should be the one mopping the floor the longest. I should be the one connecting with kids until 5:30. I should be doing this. I should be doing 504 plans, because why? Why are they going to fill out paperwork? I can do that. I'm getting paid a lot of money to do stuff, right? I want them to do the work that I can't get into all the single time. I can't be and talk to every single student. I've got I got payroll. I got this. I got this. But guess what? I got 2 wonderful people in my building, Kelsey and Betsy, who I know no matter what's going on, they're going to listen to a kid who needs something. So I think make the main thing the main thing. Let them connect with kids. Don't put stupid things on their plate that someone else can do, and let them be who they need to be, the heart of the school.
Awesome. Betsy.
I want everyone to know we'll be hiring some counselors pretty soon. So you know where to come. Yeah, so obviously, I'm in a situation where I don't have to advocate for my role, but that hasn't always been the case. And I think I know so many counselors, especially in Michigan, where we have the second or third to last worst counselor to student ratio in the nation. A lot of counselors that I know are in those situations where they're not able to do the things that they really should be doing. And I know the best thing you can do is find out what are your administrators' goals for your building, and how can you use your school, or I'm sorry, your skills to support that, and how can you create some goals for your department aligned with the vision of your administrator and the direction of your school district, and say, hey, here's how I can contribute to that, but here's the use of my time for the last week or two, which is an ask a template. Here's how I've been spending my time, and I'm not going to be able to do all of these things I want to do to support this unless these things are taken off my plate, or unless I have more time to do it. And so that give and take of like what you would like to be doing and how you're currently spending your time, if it's not on things that are master's in counseling level activities. And then I think also just conferencing with your administrator, you need time to meet and to collaborate on the direction of the school. And to hear how you can support where it is they want to see things go, so I just think really knowing how are you identifying where are you spending your time, and how could it be better resource for something that you'd really like to be doing, and making sure that you get the buy-in from them.
I follow up real quick with one other thing. It's sad though that counselors have to prove themselves about what they're doing. It goes back again to trust. You should trust them that they are doing the right thing. And again, Betsy called me out on the carpet right after. I don't ask Betsy what she's doing all day. I don't say, hey, I let her do her thing because I believe in her and I believe in their program. Like, you have to have that trust and that value in their voice and what they're doing. Again, that goes back to the whole thing about culture and value and connections. We can sit here all day, but every question is going to be back to that. Making the main thing, showing respect, value, and understanding everyone's role, and believing what they do is impactful to all students.
Thank you. So I am a realist, and people that, I have my webinar persona, so you all don't know the real me. I'm kind of a cynic at heart. I battle it every day. It's my very least favorite thing about myself. And Roger, having a dude like you on is a blessing and a curse. The blessing is it's like, oh, hell yes, this is what we need. The curse is if I'm not in a situation where I feel like this is my reality, it's like, I don't even know what to start because I don't have a Roger in my school. Right. So what I want to set up for you all, this is, I think, a really important discussion. What advice do you have for people that may not feel as supported, that may feel like their vessels are starting to feel empty, and maybe they don't feel like they have that structure that's being described? Where can an individual start? What can an individual in a classroom or in an office start to do to try to affect change there locally, and also not burn themselves out in the process? And I'm going to intentionally mix up the order on this. I'm going to go Denise, Betsy, and then Roger. I'm going to give you the last word on that because because
you kind of know where he's going with it, right?
Yes.
I think that you have to take care of yourself. You have to know when you need help and ask for it. Too many times we give, and we get that compassion fatigue that Roger was just talking about. And so trying to be positive, and when there's not a positive piece left, go find who that person is on your campus to try and help you, to provide resources. And looking at what basic needs are not being met for our staff and even for our students. We just recently found 3 staff members who were living in their cars. That's pretty shocking. And we were able to connect them with resources, but continuing to get out there and to know what's happening with your teachers with your administration. When you notice someone's having a bad day, like Roger said he does sometimes, going in and investing in them. So pouring into one another to create that safe and supportive and not judgmental environment that we all need. Again, looking for resilience. How do we teach people to be resilient? And if we do that from a very young age, then that stacks one upon the other. The next thing, it begins to be habits. and then you're more able to face those things that life throws at you. So that's
Thank you
any
so much.
age group, right? Any age group.
It's all the same.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Betsy, you're up.
I think for anybody in that situation, the biggest thing they should do is connect to somebody, whether that's another counselor in their district, or if there isn't someone in your district and outside of your district. We decided to put together, in our county, there's no way for counselors in the area, because we just have, you know, a few different buildings, 3 buildings with counselors, so there's only like 7 of us. So we just found on school websites the emails of other middle school counselors and created a little Google sheet, and then we emailed and like, hey, do you guys want to start meeting regularly to talk about things going on in our schools and collaborate and get ideas? And that was a huge thing for us to start changing some of our programming and hearing what other schools are doing, or just the shared trauma of how terrible things were one year, or how hard it was, you know, just hearing that from others. And so I definitely say connect to some other school counselors, find a school counselor mentor, someone who's just a step ahead of you that you can problem solve with, or vent to, or just brainstorm ideas. Even if that's just, even on social media, there's great groups for school counselors where you can hear what others are dealing with or get ideas. Like if you're looking for an SEL curriculum, people are always on there. What's your favorite SEL curriculum? Of course, WhyTry is always my answer. But I just think that anytime that we can connect to someone else that either can understand what we're going through and help us through it, or just be there because they're a step ahead. And then also look at getting involved in your state board. I'm on the Michigan School Counseling Association. That's not something I ever pictured that I would do. I didn't even really know what it meant when I signed up. You know, but that's been such a huge advocacy piece for understanding like what's going on at the state level, what's going on across the state, and then even nationally. Just being more involved in some of those conversations, and you know, the advocacy piece legislatively is huge. So I just feel like get yourself involved, continue your own professional development so that you know that you are best equipped to serve the role.
Awesome. Thank you. Roger.
All right, let's get real fast. Realist here. I'm the same way. Don't get me wrong. Like, yes, I have a lot of energy when I'm passionate about something. So, like, you're not always going to have someone in your corner. You're going to have people that doubt what you do and don't believe in what you do, or don't see the value in what you do. I was an assistant principal for 7 years. I went into a building where the people told me, you can't do that. Kids can't do, there's no rides for kids. There's staff don't want to do this. You know what I did? And I proved them wrong. Just prove them wrong. I think when you don't have the support, you either have 2 things. You either accept the defeat or you show them that they're wrong. So I empower every school counselor out there. If you do not have the support, you keep pushing them until they finally see it. Prove to them that what you do is valuable. Are they going to see it right away? Maybe not. Hopefully they do. It could take some time, but don't stop. Again, you don't stop. That's the bottom line about that. Because I could have in my other role, I could have said, you know what? I'm not getting the funding that I need for this. I'm not getting the support I need for this. And I'm just going to say, you know what? I'm just going to do what everyone else has always done because that's what they think is right. But I didn't. Was it easy? Heck no. It was stressful because I didn't feel valued for 2, 3, 4 years until finally it was like, whoa, something's different. It's not going to happen overnight. If you don't see someone that values your counseling department today, they're probably not going to see it tomorrow. That's being real. They might not see it in September when we start again. But when they start seeing a difference, they start seeing a staff who feels like a family, when they start seeing kids who want to help each other in the hallways and come to you because they know that there's a need and they see this passion and this desire to connect, they're going to see it. And when they see it, they're finally going to see you. And that's the thing, you can't stop. And I just encourage you, please do not stop. If you don't have an encouraging person, find someone who does encourage you. I'm lucky my assistant principal here actually went to high school with her. You know, we got reconnected after 22 years. Like, I have someone I can talk to. So when I feel like I'm defeated, they can lift me up. And I have Betsy. I felt defeated. She's lifted me up. She has. You got to have it. Just don't give up. Don't be defeated because you're worth it.
That's awesome, Roger. And I appreciate you being a good sport. I hope it didn't come across like I was accusing you of being a hopeless optimist or anything like that. But I really, I get, I mean, I guess it's the advocate that's in all of us. Like I know the heart because I'm talking in my role as somebody that's training educators on a daily basis. I carry their pain to a certain extent because we process their challenges. And so we have to be real about it. And I really appreciate you joining and bringing your perspective on, because I think you are giving a lot of people hope. I do want to throw out as well, we're in kind of a unique situation as WhyTry, and some of you have seen me on here a lot. Some of you have been to my trainings, but we put up our contact information at the end of these every time, and I really do it with sincerity. And I will make the offer, because Betsy's point is so important, to connect with someone else that can help rejuvenate you. If you are a counselor or an educator, if you're in a spot where you just need somebody to connect with and you don't know who, shoot me an email. I have friends in every state that are incredible educators that would be more than happy to connect with you at a local level. I am more than happy. I'll talk about anything you want. If you don't want to talk about school, you just need a distraction, I promise I am your guy. So please take us at our word when we put our contact information out. And if you are feeling alone and you need a contact, by all means, take advantage of this community, because it's powerful. And the educators, Denise said it, that she said, we're huggers, we want to support. And that's the truth. That's why we get into this, and we want to do this for each other as well. Oh man, you guys get me all passionate about this too. I think we are right up on the hour. Let's I think finish up with a last question, and I'll give you two options, two prompts. You can respond to whatever one you want, or you can respond to both. But I would love to have you share either a recent success that you'd be willing to share, or share something that's given you hope right now. And while you talk, I'm going to put up our contact information in a loop in the background, so that if anybody does want to get a hold of us, let's go Roger, Denise, and then Betsy, and go ahead and respond to any recent success or something that's given you hope.
I think the thing that's given us hope is just, I've seen teachers who felt broken come alive this year. And sometimes it's a wave, when we get back in those ruts of that fear and that anxiety. But I think even myself personally, finding that someone, that's the hope. Finding someone you have to talk to. If that is your colleague sitting next to you, if that's a therapist you do through Zoom, whatever that is, if you need someone, find somebody. Don't let pride of not feeling like a failure, because that's exactly what I was doing for myself this year. I was letting my pride of, I don't need to talk to anybody about this, I can handle everything. But I feel like that is a big thing that we have. We have people who want to listen. I think that is the hope that we have. We have someone, and we have people who want to listen. And for administrators too, I don't want to give everybody a bad rap of like administrators, this and that. I don't think any administrator wakes up every morning and says, you know what, I want to devalue the counselors. They don't. I think they don't see it. So let's go back to that. Like, I think that is a positive, is that things that you're doing are being seen. And yes, they might not have a response that we want so far, but trust me, administrators are seeing the value of the counselor, especially through the pandemic, especially with all the social emotional stuff going on right now. You are allies. They are seeing you. I think they just don't know how to use you and use you as the tool more than what they've always known. And I think it's going to come, full circle, and they're going to see that. So that's a positive that I see.
Thank you, Denise.
Well, every single day I'm blessed by knowing that I've made a difference in somebody's life. And if I don't feel that by a certain point of the day, then I go look for an opportunity to be able to do that, to impact someone. And usually it involves combating that victim mentality that I mentioned before, and empowering someone to have hope and to reconnect with their lives and with what's going on. So for our students, I think a big part of that is help teaching self-awareness, help teaching that self-management skills and responsible decision-making, a lot of those skills that the WhyTry curriculum helps with, reconnecting students with their learning and with their goal setting, and with these things that again, build those coping strategies, and then it becomes habit. So just empowering and having hope that we can continue to do really important work. Too often in our exhaustion, we forget our why. And so helping educators know their why and remember their why. And then what about asking our kids to start thinking about what their why is for their future? getting them out of that narcissistic stage that they're in, and helping to push them to look a little further down the pathway.
Awesome. Betsy, bring us home.
All right, so I think what gives me hope is always goes back to the students, and I feel like, you know, there can be some frustration that you're not sure if what you're doing is making an impact, is it making a difference, does anyone notice? But you know, change takes time, and especially culture change is slow, and so you just do a little bit every day, and you do those little things that add up. And so the thing that gave me hope recently, I was coming into work on Monday, and I just was in, I don't know what happened, but I just wasn't feeling it that morning. I was like, should I have just called off? You know, one of those things you think about, but you never actually do. But I was just walking in a funk. I don't know where it came from, if it was the weekend was too busy or what, but I was walking in and I had 3 different kids say, "Good morning, Mrs. Kanagawa," all excited. And I was like, "Oh, good morning." And I feel like I'm always the one saying good morning and saying their names, but for them to see me and to model like what I feel like I always try to do, and then kind of like called me out. Oh, I felt called out, like, oh, I didn't say good morning to them first. And then Tuesday, same thing. I walked in, and this student, from the moment I walked in, talked with me and had a conversation the whole way to my office. And it's not even one of my students, but you know, so just when you see those students seeking you out or just saying good morning, like it just, you don't think that makes an impact when you're doing that. But then when that student did that for me, and then 3 in a row, I was so impacted by that. And I was like, wow, that really matters to kids when I do that, because I know how I just felt. And so it was just a simple thing. And it was kind of what Denise said, just finding those small things every day. And if a student had written a quote basically about that on our board, we have a student who writes a quote every day who's amazing. And I said, Jarrell, I love that quote because I lived that the last 2 days. I found some small things that mattered. And so even when you're having a crap day, or you're just in a funk, or it's like you thought it was Friday and it's only Tuesday, and you're like, oh my gosh, I thought it was Friday, you know, just find those small things and find those people that you can go to that, you know, builds you up and remind you why you're doing what you're doing. And, you know, if you can't find an administrator exactly like Roger, you know, build a relationship with your admin so that you have that support, so that you can do the things that really make a difference.
So good. For me, you know, the standard answer I always give, and I really mean it. You all, this community gives me hope. It charges my batteries. It's becomes so important to me. But then I'll share a personal note. I'm at the weird stage in life. My oldest son is going to graduate this year, and he's on pace to graduate. And not to get too personal, but he struggles with a few things. He's got very severe ADHD, and he is very much a case of it takes a village. And I am so grateful for the support he has had at school. As no matter how good of an educator I think I am, I couldn't have done this on my own. It really has taken great administration and teachers that send me emails and check in on him, and counselors. And I'm so excited for him. The world's ahead of him, and he's going to do great things. But it's been such a great support of educators that are just phenomenal human beings that are getting there, and that hope becomes contagious. So anyway, let's give a huge round of applause to all our panelists today, and huge thank you to all of our attendees. I loved the chat that was going on in the chat room, and I know we weren't able to cover everything, probably every question that you had, but I feel like we covered a lot, and I hope it's been something that has picked you up a little bit, and also given you some ideas that you can walk away with. And just thank you again to our panelists for being such great examples and great experts in this field. Everybody, go have a great week, have a great weekend, and that's all I've got. I think I'm going to play us out with some music. Any of you have any